Stop. Not because something bad is coming. Because something is finally arriving. And if you are not paying attention at this exact moment, you will feel it brush past you without understanding what it was. That has happened before. There is one question I need you to sit with before anything else. Not a rhetorical question, a real one. When was the last time you allowed yourself to receive something without immediately calculating what it was going to cost you? Not give. And everything that is about to change. Place your hand on your chest right now, right at the sternum, and notice what is there. Not your heartbeat. Beneath it, a tiredness that is not about sleep. A weight with no single source. You have been carrying that thing for longer than you want to say out loud. The reason you found this video is that something in you already knows the carrying is almost done. I am going to show you why that is true. And I am going to do it by starting somewhere you probably did not expect. In ancient Rome, before the empire had walls, the priests of the oldest temples were not priests in the way we use that word. They were readers. Students of pattern, people who understood that the sky kept accounts. And in those accounts, Jupiter had one specific role they tracked with extraordinary care. Jupiter did not give randomly. It withheld for years, compressed its abundance, held it in reserve. And then, when the geometry aligned, it released everything at once. The priests called this the opening of the storehouse. And what they recorded, carefully, over centuries, was this. When the storehouse opened for a specific sign, the people born under that sign did not receive random good fortune. They received the exact return on every investment of patience they had made while the storehouse was closed. The storehouse is opening for Leo right now. And before I tell you what that means in the sky, I need to tell you what it means in your actual life, because the sky is only useful if it maps to something true that is already happening inside you. And what is true inside you, if you allow yourself the honesty that 3 a.m. sometimes permits, is that you are tired in a very specific way. Not generally tired from holding things together through willpower alone, from being the one who kept going, who found reserves when the reserves were supposed to be empty, and somewhere along the way, you stopped talking about it, not because it got easier, because you ran out of people who could hold the weight of it without making it about themselves. So you got quiet, and you got very good at making the quiet look like strength. Here's what I want you to hold on to until the end of this video. That quiet, that performance of fine, when you were not fine. The universe has been watching it, counting it, and the number it has arrived at is larger than you would let yourself believe if I asked you right now to name what you deserve. Keep that thought. We are coming back to it. But first I need to show you something about your sign that most readings get completely wrong. The version of Leo that circulates everywhere, confident, magnetic, the natural center of every room. That version is not wrong. It is just dangerously incomplete, because what nobody talks about is the underside of all that warmth. The specific loneliness of being the one who generates light, and almost never being asked where it comes from. You learned early that your warmth was wanted. That when you were bright and generous and present, the world responded in ways that felt like love, and so you learned to be those things, consistently, at the expense of everything happening underneath. And the environments you ended up in, the relationships, the family dynamics, the professional situations, they found the edge of that and pressed on it quietly. Not cruelly, just consistently. You can perform, but you cannot need, you can give. And you, rather than leave, rather than make demands, turned up the brightness. Because brightness was what had always worked. And the cost of that strategy is the weight your hand is feeling right now. Feel the back of your neck, that tightness at the base of the skull. That is not a personality trait. That is the physical record of years of performing when the performance should have stopped. Now, what I promised you. The connection between what those Roman priests observed about Jupiter's cycles and the specific exhaustion in your body right now. Here it is. Jupiter stationed direct at 15 degrees and 5 minutes of Cancer. That degree has a name that astrologers have used for over 1,000 years. Jupiter's exaltation point, the single degree in the entire zodiac where Jupiter does not simply function. The greatest giver in the solar system, at its most powerful degree, is aimed directly at the sign that has been waiting the longest for its return. This is not a gentle nudge toward optimism. This is the storehouse opening. By a significant margin. The question now is whether you will be standing in a posture that allows the return to reach you. We are going to come back to that. But first, let me show you exactly where the return is already beginning to move in your life. There are 3 specific areas, and I want you to notice as I describe each one, whether something in your chest shifts, because that shift is not coincidence. That is the part of you that already knows this is true, recognizing itself in the description. The first area is recognition. Not applause, not praise, something quieter and heavier and more real than either of those things. Leo is associated with the need to be seen, and that association has been used lazily for years to suggest that this need is a flaw. The infant who is not seen does not simply feel sad. The infant who is not seen fails to thrive. Recognition is oxygen. And what happened in the difficult years is that you ended up in situations where the recognition was withheld in a very specific way. Your light was wanted. The source of it was not particularly interesting. You were allowed to warm the room. You are not allowed to take up the center of it as yourself, unperforming, just present. And the return that is moving toward you now is not a standing ovation. It is the arrival of people and circumstances that are genuinely curious about where your light comes from. Not just grateful for the warmth, actually curious about the source. That is what you have been waiting for. That is what your body just recognized when I said it. The second area is rest. Not sleep. The deeper rest. The rest of not being responsible for the energy in the room. The rest of entering a space and being allowed to be at whatever level you actually have that day, without the implicit demand that you lift everyone else before you can be present. You have been performing at full output for so long that you have begun to mistake the performance for the self, the brightness for the person. Jupiter's return for Leo includes something specific and rare. Permission. Permission to be dim sometimes. Permission to be the one who is held rather than the one who holds. And here is what I need you to understand about that permission. It does not arrive as a feeling. It arrives as specific invitations. Moments in the next weeks where someone offers you something and the old instinct to say you are fine, you do not need anything, you are good, rises up immediately. Your practice, starting now, is to pause at that instinct, to feel it, and then to say yes anyway. That pause, that single, different choice, that is the posture that allows the storehouse to reach you. The third area is your story. Every Leo I have ever encountered carries a version of their own history that is edited for the audience. The version where the hard chapters become proof of resilience, where the cost is made to look smaller than it was because making it look smaller felt like strength. You are extraordinary at this editing. It is part of why people are drawn to you. You can take the hardest thing that happened and turn it into something that inspires rather than burdens the listener. But that gift has cost you something specific. The experience of being witnessed in the unedited version, of letting someone hold the part that was not handled beautifully. That was just hard and real and expensive. Jupiter's return for Leo includes a specific invitation. One conversation, one person, the true version of one chapter of your story. And here I want to pause for a moment, because I am aware that everything I have just described, the recognition, the rest, the unedited story, sounds like things that require other people to provide. And that is partly true, but only partly. The rest begins the moment you allow yourself to acknowledge that you are tired rather than performing, not tired, to your own reflection. The story begins the moment you read back your own journal or your own memory without immediately framing it as a lesson you learned or a strength you developed, just letting it be what it was. Hard, expensive, real, before it becomes anything else. I want to tell you something about the months ahead that is different from anything I said about the years behind. The years behind required you to hold, to compress, to endure. The months ahead are going to require something that is in some ways harder than all of that. They are going to require you to expand, to let the container grow, to match the return that is arriving. And expansion is uncomfortable in a way that endurance is not. Endurance, you have the muscle for it. You know exactly what it asks of you, and you know you can deliver it. Expansion is unfamiliar. It asks you to become something you have not been yet, to occupy space you have not occupied before, to need in ways you trained yourself out of needing, to want openly rather than quietly, to let people see what success actually looks like for you, rather than performing a version that is easier for them to celebrate. This is the work of the next season, and it is harder than it sounds. But it is also, and I want you to hear this clearly, it is also what you were built for. Every hard year was composite. Every compressed season was preparation. The Leo who endured all of that is exactly the Leo who has the roots to hold the expansion that is coming, without being destabilized by it. But here is what I have not told you yet, and this is the part that most Leo readings will never get to, because they stop at the surface. They tell you that Leo is resilient, that Leo bounces back, that Leo is the sign of the comeback, like stepping into a room that was yours all along, but that you had convinced yourself you had no right to occupy, like wearing a coat that fits perfectly, but that you forgot you owned. The reason for that strangeness is something the ancient astrologers understood, and that modern readings almost never address. It is this. The Leo who comes through a long, difficult passage and emerges into a season of genuine return is not the same Leo who entered the passage. The difficult years do not simply test you and leave you intact. They change the shape of what you need, which means that some of the things you are waiting to get back are not actually what you need anymore. And some of what is arriving will not look like what you expected, will not announce itself the way you rehearsed in your mind, will arrive quieter and more specific and more real than the version you imagined. And you will almost miss it because you are scanning the horizon for something that looks different. This is why I said earlier that the posture matters, not just willingness in the abstract, specific attention, the kind of attention that notices the small, precise arrivals rather than waiting for the dramatic one. The conversation that goes slightly deeper than it should with someone you just met. The opportunity that comes from a direction you were not watching. The morning where you wake up and the weight at the sternum is 2 degrees lighter without anything external having changed. These are not coincidences. These are the storehouse beginning to distribute. Not all at once. Your job, in this window, is to be a fair witness to those arrivals. Not to minimize them because they are smaller than what you imagined. Not to inflate them because you are hungry for evidence that things are changing. Just to see them clearly. And here is the specific signal to watch for. In the next several weeks, pay attention to the moments when someone offers you something and your first response is to deflect it. To say you are fine. To redirect toward what they need instead. But in this window, that deflection is costing you something real. Every time you redirect the offering, you are closing a channel that the storehouse is trying to use. And the storehouse will find another channel. But the specific offering that was meant for that specific moment does not come around twice in exactly the same form. I want you to practice something very small and very specific. For the next 7 days, every time someone offers you something, help, a compliment, an invitation, a moment of genuine attention, before you respond, take one breath. Just one. You do not have to explain yourself. You do not have to make a speech about learning to receive. Just one breath, one honest assessment, one different choice, where the choice is different. That is the practice. It is small enough to do, and it is large enough to matter. Now I need to tell you the most important thing. The thing that changes the frame around everything I just described. The Leo who sits down to watch a video about astrology on an ordinary day is not doing it casually. You know that. Something specific brought you here. A restlessness. That is the body, registering the approach of something it has been waiting for before the conscious mind has caught up. Your nervous system is already tracking the change. Your chest already knows that the weight is beginning to shift. The question is not whether this is real. The question is what you will do with the window while it is open. Because windows like this do not stay open. Jupiter moves through Leo, and the return it carries does not repeat on a convenient schedule. What is available in this window? The specific quality of reception and recognition and rest that the storehouse is releasing is calibrated to this moment, to the version of you that exists right now, with the specific investments you have made and the specific costs you have paid. A year from now, the sky will be different. The mechanism will be engaged with different signs, different cycles, different returns. The window that is open for you right now is open now. Here is what I am asking you to do with that. Find a time when the house is quiet. Early morning before anything fills the space. Sit somewhere stable. Take real paper, something your hands can hold. At the top, write one sentence. Let your hand finish it without editing. The sentence begins with these words. What I have been waiting for someone to notice is, do not write the strong version. Write the true version, the one from the vault. When you are done, do not read it. Fold the paper once. Place it somewhere you will see it every day. 3 days later, open it. Read it the way you would read a letter from someone who loves you without condition. And notice what has changed in your chest, between the writing and the reading. That change is Jupiter doing what Jupiter does when the storehouse opens, not delivering abundance from outside, revealing what was already inside. That was compressed and waiting. That just needed one honest sentence to start moving. One more thing, and this is the part that stays. The Roman priests who tracked Jupiter's cycles did not simply record when the storehouse opened. They recorded who was ready to receive when it did. Because the storehouse does not override the choices of the people it is opening for. It amplifies them. If you are still in the posture of give everything and protect yourself from receiving, the abundance moves around you the way water moves around stone. Not punishing you, simply going where it can go. But if you are in the posture of openness, of genuine willingness to be seen in the unedited version, of trusting that the light does not have to be earned today because it was already earned across every day, you kept going when stopping was the easier option, then what arrives will be proportional to everything you invested when the storehouse was closed. And the investment was enormous. You know that. Your body knows that. The tiredness at the sternum knows that. The tension at the base of your skull knows that. The silence you performed, instead of asking for what you needed, knows that. The ledger is closed. The number is in. The storehouse is open. You are not waiting anymore. You have not been waiting. You have been becoming. And what you became through every hard chapter, you edited down to something manageable for other people's comfort, is the exact version of yourself that the return was calculated for. Leo. Stand still long enough to let it reach you. Right below, not the polished version, the true version of what you have been waiting for someone to notice. Not for me. For the Leo who is going to scroll down in an hour and find your words and finally feel like someone said it first, and that means they are allowed to say it too. The moment you write the real sentence in that comment section is the moment you stop performing receiving and start actually doing it. And if this found you at the exact moment it was supposed to find you, the bell icon is how you make sure the next one does too. Not because a channel needs numbers. Because the sky does not pause between cycles, and you will want to be close enough to feel the next current before it arrives. The universe has spoken. What comes next is in your hands.